Hey everybody, Eric with 17 Shard here to give you a review of The Lost Metal, the fourth and final Mistborn Era 2 book, the Wax and Wane series. And that comes out November 15th, 2022. And wow, it's been a long time since we got one of these. Mistborn Era 2 started with the Alloy of Law in 2011, and we got Shadows of Self in 2015, and Bands of Mourning in 2016, so it's been a good 6 years. This review will be spoiler-free for The Lost Metal. Maybe it'll be too vague, but we'll find out. So how good is this book? Well, it sure has a lot to do, right? Because we have to wrap up all the Era 2 stuff, we have to wrap up the character arcs, but also, we have to set up future Mistborn eras. Like there's gonna be a, modern era Mistborn series, and then way after that, there's going to be a science fiction Mistborn series. That'll be much later. But Mistborn Era 3 won't be that far off, because Brandon will write that after Stormlight 5. So there's kind of a careful balance, right? Whereas the end of Here of Ages, the last Mistborn Era 1 book, that one could have a very definitive ending, and it's like, oh, if I stop here, then I'm good. Whereas I don't think anyone's expecting such a conclusive ending for this one, right? So there's kind of a careful line to walk here, right? And ultimately, the book is good, but I wouldn't say it is incredible. It is not my favorite of the Mistborn Era 2 books. I think that still goes Shadows and Bands are still really excellent. I think I would put those both above this book. That doesn't mean this book is a bad conclusion. I do like the conclusion that we got here, so it is very good in that sense. But it's kind of less than the sum of its parts. In that, if you wrote down all the cool stuff, and there is a lot of cool stuff, you would say, oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds just like the best. And you see it all come together, and it's not the best. It's still good, but it's not 10 out of 10 incredible. Though there are 10 out of 10 incredible moments. Does that make sense? It didn't quite come together for me like Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning did. I do think it's a step above Alloy of Law still, but though I still like Alloy of Law, it is definitely my least favorite of the Era 2 books. I almost said Era 4 there. No, there's 4 Era 2 books. Okay. So what do I mean by that? And I think it comes down to really the plot. In that the plots of Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning, I felt were so tight and well constructed that this one, not quite doing it for me as much. I still would not say it is bad. Let's see if I can explain with no spoilers. There are kind of two main plot lines in the book. So we have a plot line A and we have a plot line B. Plot line A has a lot, it is spinning its wheels. So something about it just didn't really connect with me nearly as much as plotline B, which I thought was firing on all cylinders there. I don't know, I think there's just a lot of wheels spinning there that sort of makes it what are we doing here? Why? It doesn't help that plotline A has 2 new characters that I really didn't like. This is a random tangent, but in Wonder Woman 1984, love the first Wonder Woman, hate 1984. They have the whole wishing stone thing in that movie, and you're like, why are we doing that? That just doesn't seem like a compelling idea. And maybe it could be done well, but I'm not convinced. And there's 2 characters I'm just no, Brandon, I don't like this. Maybe I'm making it a bigger deal than it actually is. It doesn't kill the book, but I'm really? Why are we doing this? I don't know, just something about moving from plotline A, which we're just there's investigation and we're doing stuff. And I'm cool, I guess. Compared with plotline B, which I'm yo, this is firing on it. Everything is amazing. That I'm this just doesn't, it's not quite gelling for me. Then there's actually a third plotline as well. And I'm what? This one is a little baffling, where this is a plot where that it just goes nowhere. Like, this is just clearly the setup for Mistborn Era 3, and I'm like, what? Why? Okay. Cool. Like, I get what it's trying to do, that it's like, okay, that will be important later, but it's just like, oh, well, that was sure weird. And we don't get any information on it. And so I'm like, what? These three are not quite jiving together as they should. And that's kind of a bummer, because I'm a pretty plot-centric reader. I really like tightly constructed plots, which is why I love Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning so much. Though I think Shadows is still probably my favorite of these. Like, that's such a tightly plotted book. And this one is just like, it has lots of cool things, but it doesn't quite all come together for me. And I think you could say that this book is maybe a little disappointing in that it does not wrap up all of the Era 2 stuff, right? There is going to be more Mistborn. We do deal with the biggest Era 2 thing here. I feel like you could justifiably be like, man, I wish we got more of this, and we just kind of didn't. And I think it's totally fair for you to be disappointed there. I didn't mind. Like, I think that's fair that we would get more in, like, Era 3 and stuff. If you're bummed about this when you read the book, I will totally get that. I think that's super fair. And wrapping up plot comments, the best part of the plot is the ending. Hey, what do you know? Brandon Avalanches, they're pretty good. And this one doesn't disappoint. This one has some really amazing moments and just crazy stuff that you would not expect. Yeah, I really dug that. And it really dug that? Yes, that's dug that. I really liked it. And good endings. I'm always like, oh, I mean, how bad can a Brandon book be when the ending is awesome? And not that this book is bad. Like, I would not say it is bad. I would say it's gonna maybe not be universally praised. But good ending. I like it. I'm in. It's just, I wish there was maybe a little less wheel spinning earlier in the book. Like, maybe it could have been a little tightened up. Now, for characters, the character work is really good in this book. There is one character who gets just a really good arc, and I really, really liked that. There's maybe just one of our main crew who I'm like, I don't know if I really liked that arc. I thought the character work was done really well in this book. Brandon said we get more Steris, and Steris is great to see. Wish we could have gotten even more, but you know, when you have Waxwayne and Marasi, what can you do, right? There's gonna be a lot of them, but Steris still has some moments to shine, and that is lovely. And overall, the character endings, like the way we wrap up all of that in this book is really well done. I really liked that. And so in that sense, this is a great conclusion for Mistborn Era 2. So I think you'll be pretty happy with that. I thought all of that made sense, and I really dug that. We're back to dugging. Now, for Cosmere fans, this book is pretty spicy. It's pretty spice. I wonder if you are a Mistborn only reader. I'm curious to know your thoughts on this book. That'll be a thing. I still think it's fine. Like, I think if you have only read Mistborn, I think you will still get a good, complete story. But kind of like Rhythm of War, there are more Cosmere crossovers and hints and stuff. And so do be aware of that. I mean, obviously, of the 17th Shard, the super mega fans, I'm loving the Cosmere stuff. What a surprise. But I am curious what you would think of that. It might just be a little weird because, you know, Era 2 came out in, you know, it started coming out in 2011, where Brandon was still like, yeah, you know, the story should be self-contained, right? And the Cosmere stuff shouldn't be the focus. And I mean, it's not. Like, Waxwayne, Marasi, Steris, they're still the drivers here. I think the crossover stuff we get, I think, is explained really well in the book. I don't think it will be, like, confusing to readers. Like, obviously with Cosmere stuff, if you've read the other Cosmere stuff, it's like, oh, that's the thing from the other thing. And, like, that's always fun. I don't know. I think it's pretty good. And I don't think you'll mind too much. And if you are into Cosmere stuff, we'll have a lot to talk about. So that'll be pretty good. So yeah, The Lost Metal is a good read. It's really fun. It's a pretty good conclusion to Era 2. It is not my favorite of these. The plot didn't come together for me, but there are, and I can't be too specific in a spoiler-free review, there are a lot of really cool moments. I will have a top 10 list of my favorite moments coming up after release. It's hard to get it to be a top 10, let's just say. So there's a lot of really, really cool stuff, but it is not my favorite. So I don't think this one will be universally loved, but I think it'll be maybe universally liked, maybe? Like, there's a lot to like, but maybe not like, whoa, 10 out of 10, right? Like, I'd say it's definitely above average. It's worth a read, especially if you're into the Cosmere and you're reading Mistborn Era 2. It's a good conclusion. It sets up more. There are some missed opportunities, which are a bit of a bummer that we'll go into, but there's also plenty of really exciting things to talk about. And so you can obviously hit subscribe and you can see lots of spoilery reactions when the book comes out, and we'll have just so much to talk about, and I imagine you'll want to talk about a lot of them. So I think that's about it for me. Stay tuned for plenty more Brandon stuff. Let us know what you think below about The Lost Metal, and we got plenty to talk about. And coming through 2023, we have the secret projects. I don't know if I'll do a video review for each secret project, but we'll definitely at least have like Shardcast reactions for each of them. So yeah, stay tuned. Plenty more Brandon content to come.